Be a beautiful day. Absolutely. We have been cramming this whole friggin' week. It's just so fun. So much fun this week. So
I'll give it a few minutes, let people join in.
can you see me?
Very well. Wow, we already got questions. Wow, guys, this is awesome. Damn.
Start jotting that stuff down. I'm here.
Wait a couple more. We have 11 people right now. Guys who are watching, text your friends to hop on. Clay says, "Hey Brian, hey TD." Hi Clay.
What's up, brother? Enjoying your nice 90-degree weather down in Florida?
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So, welcome back to Buckle Up with Mike and Brian. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone that our next segment is April 29th, 4 p.m. Pacific time for HVAC 101. So, Brian, why don't you tell our viewers why we have a special guest here and who he is?
Well, thanks, Jess, for ratting me out. This is Taylor, and he is the director of PC. Apparently, people have kind of let us know that I'm not politically correct. So you freaking guys got me in trouble. Freaking people? You people got me in trouble. So he's here to make sure that the show stays, I don't know, politically correct. Cheers.
All right. Hi, Nate. Nate just joined. Okay. So, Brian, why don't you also tell the people why you're sitting in what seems to be a backyard right now?
Well, that's cool. By the way, welcome aboard. I'm Brian. Mike's not here again. Again, we're doing what we do. So, Mikey, thank you very much. I appreciate you doing what you do. He's out there helping you guys once again. So, I take all the blame. But we're not in somebody's backyard. We are actually in one of the test chamber rooms here at Blue On. So what you're looking at is the condenser yard, as if you were in somebody's yard. So we can move on over. I'll show you a little bit more of our test chamber. I gotta grab.
You sure you need your cigarette?
No, I'm gonna leave the cigarette, but thank you. So that was the condenser room, and then we've got our cold chamber over here, and that's this big cabinet. You guys see the back of it all the time when we're doing our buckle ups. So you've got the ductwork, we've got our humidifiers, we've got this wonderful control cabinet over here. That this is where the magic happens. The guys sit here and they can pretty much take that room to any temperature, any humidity, any particular range, and we test not only equipment, we test refrigerants. Our refrigerant compared to other refrigerants, we use different manufacturers in there, so we change the equipment around, and then we can take this cold room. Well, yeah, we make a serious cold room. And then what we've done so that we don't heat up the warehouse or Studio B is the condenser is hung in the ceiling behind Jess. She'll turn and show you that. There's our condenser right there. And now we'll get you back over here into Studio B where you guys are used to seeing me. And we'll start this up for real. And in case you guys didn't pick up on the fact, Taylor, appreciate you being my guest speaker today, man, even though he didn't want to talk. I figured out a way to get him in the shot anyway. It was all for fun. I'm really not in trouble, but here we go. Welcome back to Buckle Up with Mike and Brian with I'm not Mike and he's not here. So.
Just me and Brian today, guys.
So hey guys, as Jess said, April 29th is our next one. We're going to do HVAC 101. I do want to do my shout outs to Bruce and Brian. And I'm sorry if I got your guys' time slots mixed up. I believe it was Bruce that called me at 6:15 this morning when I had my first sip of coffee to ask me HVAC questions, but he's supposed to be watching right now, so I hope your morning went good, dude. And then I believe it was Brian, and I may have him backwards, but I believe Brian was my next call at 6:45, which I had just finished my first cup of coffee. So peace, guys. Just wanted to say hey. And of course, my buddy Mikey. So we're gonna move on. Last time when I had my buddy Dennis here, we kind of chatted too long. We're supposed to have this 30-minute segment, and I didn't get to everybody's questions, so I'm gonna shut up, and I'm gonna let Jess read some of these questions to me and see if we can get a whole lot more of them answered today, so I don't have to do part 3.
Yep. So this segment is charging and tuning part 2. So all of you guys out there, or all of you humans out there, leave your charging and tuning questions in the chat. So type them out in the chat so I can give them to Brian and get all your questions answered, or most of them.
We're gonna try, guys. We're gonna try and knock it out.
And like always, if you do stump Brian, if you can't answer your question,
It doesn't count. Mikey's not here.
Really?
It's got to be the team, man. You got to stump the team.
Okay.
But I do want to say one thing. Last time we got together, Dennis brought up something, and that was it's in the charging and tuning piece. So just a reminder: if you're dumping gas and going from a vacuum, because I know we've talked about the true suction port, you don't want to try and charge a machine from zero using the true suction port. If you're testing, grab the true suction port, but you want to, because with the blends you have to charge as a liquid. So just to recap on that, and I'll shut up. Okay.
All right.
Go ahead, Jess.
Let's go with some that were sent in the other day. First one, when working with blends, how much can leak out before you have to replace the entire charge?
The industry standard is 20%. So if you're working on a system and it has a leak, and what is the allowable percentage loss before you have to replace with new is 20%. So fix your leak, find your leak, fix your leak. In really the only way to know whether or not you've lost 20% is by knowing how much was in there originally and pulling the charge. So if you're going to do a leak repair, you got to pull the charge anyway. Weigh your cylinder. If you've lost more than 20% of that total weight, then you know that you're going to go get a bottle out of your truck and recharge. And if you're working with an R22 system, TDX20 is your best option. Ooh, nice little plug.
We got one in the chat. What are your thoughts on dropping 407C and MO99 to replace R22?
What do I think 407C versus MO99, I believe is the question. Man, I don't want to trash talk, but I will tell you that I had a person from quote unquote DuPont come in when I was working at another company, not Blue On. I was working for a contractor, and I had a gentleman come in and tell me that MO99 will lose 17% capacity. So if you look at our statistics that we've got posted, and we consider ourselves pretty transparent, you will see the comparison between TDX20, which is 458A, and 407C, and discount the rest just because of the capacity losses and higher heads and stuff like that. So a lot of guys are going 407C. I get it. But again, if you look at our statistics, there's only two top runners, and that's 458A, which is blue on, TDX20, and 407C. So would I put in MO99? No. Would I put in 407C? Maybe. And would I put in TDX20, 458A? Absolutely.
Okay, we got one from Mr. Legendary. I might pronounce these things wrong, as I am not a tech. I do all the marketing stuff.
But she's getting better, because now she can tell you what the 4 basic components of an air conditioning system are.
You put me on the spot, Brian.
We'll come back to it. We'll let her. Yeah, she's new.
I'm learning. Okay, Mr. Legendary asks, charging a zeotrope from a recovery cylinder, do you charge from the red liquid side or flip the recovery cylinder over and charge from the blue vapor side?
If you trust your cylinder, why not just leave it upright? That's a 50-pound cylinder. If you are, yes, you have to charge liquid. So whether you leave it upright and pull from the liquid or flip it upside down and pull it from the vapor, you're absolutely right. You have to pull liquid. So which one do you pick? If you don't trust the cylinder, I would open up the vapor valve and turn the bottle over in case your dip tubes broke off, or like I say, if you don't trust the cylinder, flip it.
Cool. Okay, one from NorCal HVAC 38.
Woot woot, NorCal!
They're asking, can you explain discharge superheat? Is this usually in large tonnage centrifugal chillers?
Discharge superheat? No, not in central. She's gonna make me say centrifugal.
Oh, oops.
It's not a centrifugal term. It is a screw chiller term, and they watch that discharge superheat on screw chillers. It makes a difference on the oil return and the oil separation. Nice try, though. You almost had me.
I almost did. All right. A reminder, drop your charging and tuning questions in the chat for Brian to answer them. We are ready for you. On that note, I think I remember the 4.
What are the 4 basic components of a refrigeration refrigeration?
So we've got the compressor, the condenser, the metering device, and give me a hint. Phone a friend.
Cold. Indoor. Not condenser, but.
I said compressor.
Yeah, he's got compressor, condenser, metering device, and.
Coil?
Which coil?
Condensing coil?
No, that's, you said compressor, condenser, metering device, and.
Evaporator.
Evaporator.
Thanks.
There you go.
Thanks for the help in the chat. I will eventually get
These
it.
guys are all screaming. Hey, kudos to her, because she only learned that in a brief segment 2 weeks ago, where I wrote a whole bunch of stuff down on the board so that she would kind of understand a little bit more about what you and I do. So I don't know a whole lot about what she does other than make this look good.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, we're ready for the next question. And it is, when pulling a vacuum on an HP system, what do you do when microns don't drop below 1500 and your... How do I say that?
That's all right. What do you do on a heat pump?
Something is frozen.
What do you do on a heat pump and you can't get it below 1500 microns?
Accumulator? Yeah.
And the accumulator
is frozen.
Is frozen?
Yep.
Well, that's why you can't get it below 1500, because it's boiling off all that refrigerant in the accumulator, which means that the system isn't completely empty yet, which means that you didn't do a good job on your recovery. So, if the accumulator shows signs of frost, then you have to somehow warm up that accumulator. So I would not suggest that you continue to pull a vacuum. I would warm up the accumulator somehow. I'm not telling you to put a torch on it, but you definitely don't want to put a torch on it while you've got your vacuum pump, because if that does turn into pressure instead of 17 or 1500 microns, I don't want you blowing your oil out all over somebody's yard or yourself or anything like that. But if your accumulator is frosting up, that is telltale sign that you do not have all the refrigerant out. Warm it up.
Cool.
Do a good job. Do a better job recovery.
All right, more questions. Let's go.
And just a recovery, I guess that falls into the charging and tuning, but a recovery tip. I mean, it was a long time ago that I took my EPA test, but guys, we all got a ball peen hammer, or should. I mean, if you're in the HVAC industry and you don't have a ball peen, you're still walking with a claw hammer around. I mean, that's carpenter stuff, you know, we're air conditioning guys. So ball peen hammer, tap on the compressor, tap on that accumulator, break that tinsel across the top of the oils, and that'll help with your recovery.
All right,
So,
more
101.
questions.
Yes.
Rolling in. Let's shoot them off. I want to answer as many as we can in this one because some people were mad last time that we did not get to their questions.
Mad.
Okay,
We're
what's
better than that.
what's the purpose of using the triple evacuation method?
So the purpose of the triple evac, some guys have a misunderstanding. So the purpose of the triple evac is to make sure that you get all the non-condensables out of the system, and it is always recommended that you break the vacuum using nitrogen. There's a myth out there, well, a couple of statements out there. One is that a vacuum will not remove moisture, and that's not true. That is not 100% accurate. That's the point of it, is to run the vacuum pump to remove non-condensables. One of the non-condensables is moisture. So, but the thing is if you're pulling a vacuum so fast, you can actually freeze the moisture that's in the system, and trying to get that to boil at that point is going to be impossible. So you break that or blot it with nitrogen, which the nitrogen being dry and the moisture being moist, I guess, molecularly wise, the dry nitrogen will absorb that, and as you start raising the pressure back up to 1 or 2 pounds above atmosphere, then that ice ball will suck into that nitrogen, and now you can start your vacuum again. So it's to speed up the process, because you can actually freeze moisture in the system by pulling a vacuum too fast. It doesn't give it an opportunity to boil off. There we go.
Okay.
That was a mouthful. And I may have said it fast, but
Wow, you're getting a lot of hearts, Brian.
well, what's not to love?
Constantly. Okay. Let's see. When is a refrigerant charging machine useful?
If you know exactly the pounds and ounces, the only people that I know that use a charging machine is the automobile industry, and that's because it's stamped right on the car tag information, and it's done by pounds and ounces or strictly by ounces, and they will do that. We're probably going to, if I had a crystal ball and I could see really good into the future, where refrigerants might be going, we may end up having to do that in our industry as well, and having another tool in our truck that if you're dealing with the light flammable, the A2L refrigerants, we may actually end up having to go to that, where they go to ounces and critical charge machines, and then you'd be using a machine so that you reduce the amount of time that your hoses are de minimisly venting A2Ls. So, but it's critical charge is the best answer I've got for you. And that's like I say, the automobile industry is where I see it the most. I have never seen it on a roof or in somebody's backyard. trying to charge a machine. Next.
How do you fix a oil-logged evap?
Well, I guess the best way to answer that one would how to fix an oil-logged evap. First of all, you got to understand why it's oil-logged. But to clear it before you start the machine back up, then there's a product out there called XR11, and you would do an XR11 flush, something to flush out. Obviously, you can't use refrigerant to flush out a system, but back it up with dry nitrogen and blow that system out, the best you can. But going back to what caused it to oil log, I talked to a lot of guys on the tech support line that they're sitting there watching the oil levels on some of the larger machines that have sight glasses. They're watching the oil levels go up and down, but they admittedly repaired a leak and they had to add, ounces of oil, and now the machine's running and the oil level is coming up and they're, hey, why is this happening? And it's just a natural thing that if the machine is running low on refrigerant, that it's going to pull oil out of the compressor. It puts it into the system, and of course, where's it going to go? Everything goes to the evaporator. It's the coldest point in the system when it's running, so everything travels to the evaporator. Why does it choose to get stuck in the evaporator? It's synthetic. I don't know. I can't. But because it's low, because the system is low on refrigerant, your pressures are down, therefore your velocity's down, and it's just not carrying it back. So. But the best way to get it out, disconnect your suction and liquid and actually flush it out, blow it out, and then reconnect everything and start from fresh. But you should also do your line sets. So if you're gonna go to the trouble of cutting it apart and blowing out the evaporator, then go outside and blow out the line sets as well. You might as well, you've got it already tore apart. So, thanks.
Okay, HVAC Duke is asking, when charging a heat pump with 410A, how long should you wait before adding more refrigerant to your system?
From what I have read, and it varies, if you make an expansion valve adjustment, it's 45 minutes. If you are strictly doing a charge adjustment, it's 15. I split the difference, and I try it. Once the machine stabilizes, and you should be able to look at your gauges, and you'll know whether the machine stabilizes. If it's still hunting at 15 minutes, then you continue to wait. Like I say, it all depends on who you read says what, and how the system responds. I've told even our guys, every machine responds different. I know that they're cookie cutters. I know that they're all made of copper and aluminum, and the condenser's here, the tubing goes over there, there's the evaporator. But not one machine, not two machines will act the same. Your pressures are going to be different, your superheats are going to be different, your saturation temperatures are going to be different. Side by side, same conditions, they will operate different. Amps, pressures, crazy. But it's the tubing. So, I hope I got that one. I think I did.
Okay, when recovering refrigerant into recovery cylinder, does it make a difference going into the liquid valve or the gas valve?
Again, nobody has ever told me which is preferred. So if you're doing a recovery, the recovery machine should be turning it into liquid. So what I've always done, and it has kept my tanks what I believe is cooler, is I go into the liquid side. So I make liquid by pulling it into the recovery machine, and I send that liquid to the tank. So if I'm putting it in on the liquid side, that dip tube's coming down, liquid seeing liquid, and I never have that separation like it was going through a metering device. So if you're just going in on top and dumping liquid, in this particular case, you're not cooling anything, you're actually expanding, and I think it's a disadvantage to you, and the pressures will increase more. So I've always done it on the liquid side and dump it in as liquid, because that's what we're creating with the recovery machine, is liquid.
Okay. Another question. I have a field piece recovery machine, and it told me that there is 0 psi left in the system. How long should I recover for then? How long am I gonna know if there's still refrigerant left in there?
Again, I'm going to fall back on, it doesn't matter. I appreciate the fact that you called out a field piece, but I've used several in my career, and I never stopped at 0. I always went to 10 inches, and that's pretty much what you're going to get out of a recovery. If you're stopping at 0, you've probably still got, well, again, depending upon the size of the machine. If it was a 200 ton centrifugal at 0, I probably had another 100 pounds of gas in it. On a resi 5 ton at 0 psi, you probably got another half a pound of refrigerant still in those lines at 0 psi. And is that 0 psi with the machine running, or is that 0 psi and you've turned the machine off? Because there's a difference between operating 0 and idle 0.
Another Brian is asking, symptoms and ways to diagnose a bad TXV. Also, you demand love the kicks.
Thanks. I gotta do something crazy for you guys, man. So I'm doing my checkerboard, and I couldn't wear my hamburgers today because I wore those last time. So you got anchors. Anchors away, guys. A bad TXV, if the TXV slams shut, that typically means that it's either stuck internally or you've lost the element. So break it down. What are the 3 things that operate an expansion valve? You have suction pressure, spring pressure, and bulb pressure. So the bulb is strapped to the suction line, reading whether the suction line is warm or cold. I'm just going to dummy it down, make it simple. That bulb is strapped there to look at that suction line temperature. If the temperature of the suction line is warm, it transmits that through the element back to the power head, pushing down on the stem, overcoming the spring pressure, allowing more refrigerant to flow. If that suction line is cold, again, cools down the bulb, pulls that refrigerant back through the capillary tube, reducing the pressure in the power head, allowing the spring to overcome and closing the valve. So if you were to break a cap tube between the bulb and the power head, now you have no refrigerant. The natural thing for the expansion valve to do is just go shut, because there's nothing pushing on it. So if you have low suction, not feeding the evaporator, so you've got no delta T, look at your power head. Did the power head go flat? A lot of the resi stuff, on the commercial stuff, you can rebuild them. On the resi stuff, they're not adjustable, and probably permanently sealed things. So I mean, it's you're changing it out anyway. So on the bigger stuff, we got the rebuild kits, and we can get the new power heads and the stems, and it's a fun day.
What happens if you forget to release nitrogen and you open the service valve to release refrigerant?
Well, you're going to spend the rest of your day recovering, and no, if you forget to, you can't forget. Not in this trade. If you have nitrogen in the system and you quote unquote forget to pull a vacuum on that line set and then open up your valves, all you have is non-condensables. So your head pressure is going to skyrocket. The machine's not going to tune. So what you end up having to do is recover all the refrigerant, and with that refrigerant you're going to have that nitrogen, and now the refrigerant's trash, so you're not going to get anything on that. And hey, it's not even that. We had a series of installs back in my day. We had a series of installs that, even though the evaporators said that they were pre-charged with the proper refrigerant, what we found out is they were not. They were nitrogen charged with a nitrogen holding charge just to make sure that they stayed dry. they did not have refrigerant in them, and the guys would do the quick connects and start the machine up, and we probably had a dozen units that were that way, and we ended up having to pull the charge and pull a vacuum on the whole entire system and then recharge it with virgin refrigerant. It was a nightmare. It took us a while to figure it out, but the head pressures just told us everything. It's like non-condensables, head pressure screams. So what else we got, Jess?
When
I got thirsty.
yeah, reminder, guys, leave your charging and tuning questions in the chat for Brian. We'll move on to some more.
So another reminder, we're coming really close to our 30 minutes. Our window for doing the buckle up is 30 minutes. You guys got a few more questions. I know we missed a few last time, but while I'm waiting for the questions to come in, I want to give you guys a little bit more time. We have our forum coming up, summer of 2021. 4, 2,
and we're back.
1, and we're
Good.
back.
Sorry, guys, Wi-Fi issue.
That was technical difficulties beyond my control. So continue to update your app. Tell your friends how great it is. Get them to download the app. Get them to like this stuff. We got our new forum coming out 2021. It's going to be incredible. Again, reminder, we've got 3 different options now to try and help get you guys channeled to who you need to talk to. Option number 1 is manuals and wiring diagrams. Option number 2 is under 20 tons. Option number 3 is over 20 tons. And that's just so that we can get your help faster. We appreciate the fact that you guys are calling in, and we're happy to do it. But like I say, if you get a hold of somebody doing manuals, that may not necessarily be somebody with technical background. It could be, but it may not be. So if you're asking questions on how to troubleshoot, don't go to the manuals people. Go to either the under 20 or over 20. And if you just have manuals to look up, that's fine. And when you're on the over and under 20, if you got technical questions and you need the wiring diagram, we're here. We'll do it. No problem. But like I say, try and follow the format of the 3 options.
Okay, we have a few more.
Subscribe. Yes, ma'am.
We have a few more coming in through the chat.
Cool.
When doing conversion from R22 to 458A, why do some units require more refrigeration?
More refrigerant. So, you're obviously, no, it's not obvious. Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking the question. That's my bad. So, typically, when you take out the R22 and you recharge with 458A, TDX20, we use less than R22. And I always use this example. We'll say you pulled out 10 pounds of R22. You change your dryer, you pull your vacuum down to 500 microns. Now you're getting ready to charge. We want you to charge with initial charge at 80%. So if you pulled out 10, you're going to put in 8. In the back of my mind, I already know that you're going to be somewhere between 9 and 9.5 pounds on a 10-pound charge. So the reason for the differences, I said earlier, no 2 machines operate the same. So on fixed orifice devices, I mean, maybe at the factory the tube turns weren't exactly the same. I don't know. I can't put my finger on why no 2 machines run the same, but they don't. So somewhere between 90 and 95%, you're going to hit your superheat mark that you want on a fixed orifice device. And it pretty much covers the board. We know we're going to be somewhere between 90 and 95%.
Johnny HVAC said, "Hey Brian, Jonathan from Florida, thanks for sending the blue on hat."
You're welcome, Johnny.
Welcome to
I
the
don't
club.
really think I had anything to do with that. I believe that when I checked, it was already in the mail. So that's our team, brother.
I'm pretty sure he was DMing us and I was responding and sent them to Hat. So it's awesome.
I still don't think I had anything to do with
Nope.
it, but peace. I don't want to take credit for somebody else's kudos, man.
All right, a couple more here. All right, one more. Are there non-condensables in my gauges? After maintenance, I pump refrigerant back into the system from my gauges.
Wow, great question. So if you're charging and tuning and not just testing, because as soon as you hook up your gauges, well, if you're using quick connects, low loss fittings, whatever's in the hose, if your gauge is reading pressure, then you already have refrigerant in there. But in a nutshell, yes, if you haven't purged your gauges properly, which in my case, I break everything down. It is saved. I know the gaskets in the hoses are cheap, but it's a pain in the neck when I don't have them. So I break everything I've got down. I have done that forever. Never leave the hoses tight, because it just compresses that rubber. But if you were to walk up to a machine and literally you had no quick connects, no low loss fittings, and you pressurize and you see your gauges, yes, you have non-condensables in your hoses. So if you hook up that third hose to your tank, open up your tank, you've got non-condensables. So if you didn't purge it, then yep, you're adding non-condensables. And over time, is that enough to take the system offline? No, but you're not the only one that's done it. The machine's 20 years old, so how many guys have done that and then bled it back into the system, and you're adding non-condensables, so was that your head pressure is skyrocketing? So yes, use best practices.
Okay, we're gonna start to wrap up here. So if you have any final questions, we'll wait a couple minutes for them to be in the chat, and we'll start to wrap it up. Oh, here we go.
All right.
Okay, why is refrigerant being pumped back during a maintenance? What maintenance procedure is being performed? I think he's asking the other guy.
So I get, and thank you. Let me clarify his question. Is, and I've done that a lot myself. Not when I'm hooking up for maintenance. When I'm hooking up for maintenance, I don't use the 6-foot hoses. I actually have sensors that I hooked up. But say you're charging the machine and you've done all the correct procedures and evacuate everything. All my hoses are hooked up. When I go to disconnect, and I use the quick connects, so I valve it off, I valve off the tank, and then I open up the discharge line on the manifold, and then I crack open the suction line, and I bring all of the pressures in the manifold and the hoses down to the lowest possible pressure before I disconnect. And I believe that's what he was doing as well. But if he's not purging the hoses when he's doing maintenance, if he's just hooking them up and not disconnecting them, then yes, he would be introducing non-condensables into the system if he wasn't doing it that way. So I think that cleared up what his question was.
Okay, NorCal HVAC is asking, how do you get your superheat up if you have a good subcooling, say 12 degrees, and low superheat flooding back?
Low superheat is strictly again, it's a fixed orifice device or an adjustable expansion valve. And a non-adjustable expansion valve I've always talked about is a fixed metering device. So if you have a fixed metering device and your superheat is going in the toilet, then the only way for you to correct that is to remove charge. If you're using the OEM refrigerant R22, it's a 410 machine, then you follow their procedures. If you're doing a conversion and you're going from R22 to anybody else's blend on a fixed orifice, I caution everybody to watch Superheat only. Your subcool will be what your subcool will be. Don't blow up a compressor. It's the best recommendation I can give for you.
All right. D. Cortez asks, do you recommend low loss fittings to perform a vacuum?
No, I don't. I
Why?
would put in hand valves. I would put in, anything other than low loss fittings should only be used for checking charge on a sensor. Or if that's the only thing you've got is your gauges, your hoses, and you got to hook up to a system, then get yourself multiple manifolds and low loss fittings. I believe in low loss fittings, charging and evacuation with low loss fittings. It just, again, when I got out from the commercial contractor world and came over here to Blue On, I was working on machines, guys, that held 350 pounds of refrigerant. So low loss fittings, no, everything I had was ball valves. But I believe in low loss fittings 100%. I've seen a lot of guys, I've been in this a while, I've seen a lot of guys that frostbite their fingers disconnecting off of liquid lines and stuff. I mean, the valve sticks, there are so many things that could be. I'm a firm believer in low loss fittings and ball valves on your hoses. Keep it safe, guys, keep it real.
Okay, we'll do one last question. And the question is, when starting up equipment in extreme temperature areas that reach over 120 degrees Fahrenheit during summer, do you follow nameplate specs for charging?
As best you can. If you're over 120, you poor bastards, I feel for you. I've been in the tarmac, 128 degrees on the tarmac in Phoenix downtown, and brother, it's brutal. So I feel for you, but it's off the chart is off the chart. So you're gonna have to go back to basics and do the math yourself. So if you're running that extreme, it's just like running too cold. Can you properly charge a machine when it is 35 degrees outside? Nope. So can you properly charge a machine when it is that flipping hot outside? You're gonna do the best you can. Keep an eye on your deltas, and like I say, really just do the best you can to get that machine running optimal at that condition. And with that, I'm gonna.
You got a thumbs up and a good answer.
Yeah, right on, brother. So again, keep your apps updated. We got new stuff coming in. The 3 options for tech support. Guys, we love talking to you. I'm even gonna shout out to Cooper. As crazy as that kid is talking to me, it's fun to have him on there. I laugh a lot. And guys, if you're out there and you're getting tired, it's okay. Reach out to tech support. We want you to make sure you guys get home safe every day. So my goal was always, I ran a team on the last contractor I was working for. I had a hell of a team working with me. I got a hell of a team here at Blue On. We all work together. But the key to it is that everybody goes to the job in the morning and everybody makes it home safe at night to see your family. So be safe,
awesome.
Work safe. And
You got some thank yous. I'll read them out.
We will see you April the 29th.
Yes, we will, for HVAC 101, going back to the basics. Okay, thank you for your time and responses. This is great. And then HVAC Guru joining you guys. This was great. Thanks. I'll keep an eye out when you guys are live. We go live every other Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. So get used to it. Tell your friends, hop on, ask your questions. It's a good time.
And girls, get the girls on here.
Hell yeah.
Hail to the yeah.
All right.
My best apprentice was a female. Worked her ass off.
Whoop, whoop.
Can I say that? Where did my director of PC go? Hey guys, that was a beautiful joke. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I just didn't have my buddy Mikey here, and
Hopefully next time.
We brought Taylor in, but Mikey will be back. He's out there just, I can say, he's helping you guys. That's what we do. And peace out, y'all. Till next
Peace.
time.